The WNBA just destroyed Angel Reese in one single move, and the numbers don't lie. Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever just made history with all 44 regular season games on national television, something no team has ever done before, while the player who spent 2 years screaming that she was the reason people watch women's basketball, Angel Reese, couldn't even crack the top 5. And if you think that's the worst part for Reese, wait until you hear about her temper tantrum after that reality check and what her own new teammates said about her before the season even started. Let me know down in the comments below if you support Caitlin by commenting baby goat or Reese by commenting baby giraffe.
Networks like CBS, NBC, ABC, ESPN, they make the decision as to which teams will be featured on their respective networks. And yesterday, they sent a very clear message to Angel Reese. You are not a star.
44 games. Every single regular season game the Indiana Fever play in 2026 will be on national television. And that's never happened before in WNBA history. Not once. So think about what it actually takes for a network to commit that kind of airtime to one franchise, because networks don't do that out of generosity or league loyalty. They do it because someone ran the numbers and liked what they saw.
Angel Reese is now quoted as saying, "I'll look back in 20 years and be like, yeah, the reason why we're watching women's basketball is not just because of one person." She refuses to say Caitlin Clark's name. "It's because of me too, and I want you to realize that."
And we're not talking about 1 or 2 small cable channels taking a flyer on Indiana. Disney is in, putting 13 games on ABC and 17 more on ESPN. Amazon Prime is in. NBC Universal is in, with games going on NBC, Peacock, and NBCSN. USA Network is in. ION is in. CBS and Paramount Plus are in. That's basically every major media company in America agreeing at the same time that Indiana Fever games are worth paying for. And these are billion-dollar operations that don't write checks based on feelings. Now let's talk about why Indiana specifically, because before Caitlin Clark arrived, the Fever were not exactly must-see television. They were missing the playoffs regularly, drawing modest crowds, and nobody was fighting over broadcast rights to their games. Clark walked through the door in 2024, and the ratings moved immediately, with games pulling in audiences that were sitting right next to some NBA broadcasts on the same networks. Sponsors started calling because the demographic that advertisers pay a serious premium to reach was suddenly watching women's basketball in numbers that made spreadsheets look very different.
Sorry, young lady. Nobody knows who you are. Nobody would be watching the WNBA additionally for you. This is all about Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark is bringing the money to the game, the planes to the game, the TV viewership. The WNBA is on fire because of Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin Clark just made the Indiana Fever the best show in women's basketball. Aaliyah Boston is in the post drawing double teams and still converting because she reads the defense fast, and her footwork is cleaner than most people give her credit for. Kelsey Mitchell comes off screens and hits pull-up mid-range shots that are genuinely hard to contest because she gets her feet set so quickly. Lexi Hull takes the toughest perimeter defensive assignment every night and doesn't complain about it. Sophie Cunningham comes off the bench and plays physically in a way that changes the tempo of a game. That combination around Clark means opposing coaches can't just load up one side and solve Indiana, and that makes for entertaining basketball, which is exactly what networks are selling.
History has already been made. Before a game has been played, Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever cementing their status as must-see TV. The cash cow, the money maker, the golden goose, the golden ticket, the savior of women's basketball. Yeah.
And then there's the physical attendance itself. Gainbridge Fieldhouse seats over 17,000 people, and it's an NBA arena. So when it fills up for a Fever game, the broadcast looks the part. The camera angles work, the crowd noise hits the microphones right, and the energy reads on screen in a way that a smaller venue just can't replicate. Advertisers pay for atmosphere as much as they pay for eyeballs. and a packed NBA arena delivers both every single time. So when you add all of it up, Clark's proven ratings pull, a roster that's genuinely hard to defend, and a broadcast setting that sells itself, every single Fever game becomes a product a network can take to advertisers with a straight face. No throwaway broadcasts, no games buried on a Tuesday night hoping nobody notices. All 44 count. The market just put a number on who matters most in this league right now, and that number is 44, and it belongs entirely to Indiana. The rest of the broadcast rankings, though, tell an equally specific story, and one player in particular is about to find out exactly where she landed.
I meant it when I said Atlanta's going to be lit, not just on the court, but off the court. They do a great job at the Gateway Center of selling out tickets, but they're going to be able to move games to State Farm Arena where the Hawks play now because of the Angel Reese effect.
What? Excuse me?
Let's talk about the rest of that broadcast list, because it reads like a report card nobody asked for, but everybody needed to see. Indiana sits at 44 games, which you already know. Right behind them, Dallas wings at 36 national games, built around Paige Bueckers and the 2026 #1 overall pick, Azzi Fudd. Then the New York Liberty Super Team at 35. Then the defending champion Las Vegas Aces at 33, with reigning MVP Aja Wilson running the show. Then the Los Angeles Sparks at 31. Now go back and read that list again, because Dallas got 36 nationally televised games for two players who haven't played a single professional minute together yet. Not one game. Bueckers and Fudd are coming in based on their chemistry, and networks still looked at that situation and decided it was worth more airtime than Angel Reese and the Atlanta Dream. That's not a minor slight. That's the market telling you something pretty direct about where confidence actually lives right now.
Everybody's getting paid more money. They got to figure out how they going to make some of this money back and all of that. And one way you can guarantee make a profit with these networks and turn over $1 is by putting Caitlin Clark in front of the camera on national TV as much as possible.
So where does Atlanta land? 28 nationally televised games, which puts the Dream in 7th place, sitting behind every team already on that list and Reese's former team, the Chicago Sky. And the gap between Indiana's 44 and Atlanta's 28 isn't close. That's 16 games of difference, which is nearly a third of an entire WNBA regular season. Reese spent 2 years telling anyone who'd listen that she was personally driving the growth of women's basketball, that her presence mattered, that she moved the needle. The broadcast schedule just answered that claim with a very specific number, and that number is 28. But the game count isn't even the most uncomfortable part of Atlanta's situation. Picture this. While Indiana plays inside Gainbridge Fieldhouse with over 17,000 seats and Las Vegas fills Michelob Ultra Arena, the Atlanta Dream play their home games in a gym in College Park, Georgia that holds around 3,500 people. That's it. And networks absolutely factor that into how they price ad inventory around those games, because a half-empty 3,500-seat facility does not produce the same broadcast atmosphere as a packed NBA arena. The crowd noise is different, the camera angles are tighter and less impressive, and the whole thing looks and sounds smaller on a TV screen. Let's not blame the Atlanta Dream here, because even when Reese was with the Chicago Sky, she can't even sell out their 9,000-seat Wintrust Arena.
Something called the Angel Reese effect, which no one's ever heard of besides L. Duncan. This mysterious effect, it is going to cause the Atlanta Dreamers to move home games out of the Gateway Center, which is primarily used to build computers when the unknowns in the WNBA aren't using the building to pretend to play basketball. The popularity of Angel Reese, the demand to see Angel Reese miss layups is so strong. The WNBA will be moving games out of the Gateway Center and into an actual NBA arena?
Advertisers buy ad spots, and the atmosphere of a broadcast affects what they're willing to pay. A game coming out of a gym that seats fewer people than some high school football stadiums does not command the same rates as a sellout in a building built for an NBA franchise. So Atlanta's venue situation isn't just an optics problem. It's a direct financial hit on every single home broadcast they produce, and that factors into where the Dream land in the pecking order. Reese's argument was always that she could drive interest on her own, that her name and her personality were enough to pull people in regardless of the situation around her. The 2026 broadcast schedule ran that argument through an actual market test with real money and real airtime at stake. Atlanta finished behind a young duo in Dallas and a Sparks team that hasn't been genuinely relevant in years, and that placement is the most straightforward review her Face of the League case has ever received. To understand how Atlanta got here, though, you have to go back to what actually went on during Reese's 2 years in Chicago.
The last 2 years, Angel Reese played for the Chicago Bravado, right? In terms of professional sports, even semi-professional sports like the WNBA, Chicago is a significantly better sports town when compared to Atlanta. In her 2 years with the Bravado, how many games were moved out of the Wintrust Arena, which is about the size of a local civic center in Wichita, Kansas? How many games were moved out of the Wintrust Arena into the house that Michael Jordan built called the United Center because of this so-called Angel Reese effect?
Year 1 with the Chicago Sky, Reese's team went 13-27. Year 2, they dropped to 10-34. That's not a slump. That's a direction. And the direction was straight down while she was there collecting rebounding stats and making all-star rosters. And look, the rebounding numbers were real. She pulled down boards at a genuinely high rate, and on paper that looks like a franchise cornerstone doing franchise cornerstone things. But the team kept losing more games every single year she suited up, and at some point the gap between what the stat sheet says and what the scoreboard says becomes a question you can't dodge anymore.
I'm not talking about games that were moved because the Bravado were playing Caitlin Clark. How many games were moved into an NBA arena because of the increased demand to see me-bounds? According to my calculations, none.
Here's where it gets interesting, because a big chunk of those rebounds came off her own missed shots. Reese would attempt a layup, miss it, and then grab her own miss and count it as an offensive rebound. So the number went up while the efficiency stayed in the basement. That's not hustle manufacturing production, that's inefficiency manufacturing a stat line. And there's a pretty big difference between those two things.
Angel Reese, Spark 60! How about some preps? Let's get bang! I think people don't give her enough credit for her touch and finesse around the rim. Bang! 23%! No, that's not her field goal percentage. I know, I thought that too. That's their team's winning percentage. 9-30! Bang! What ice cream flavor is smooth, salty, and a little nutty? It comes with a side of hop skippity doo-doo! Butter pecan! Bang!
The locker room situation started leaking into public view during the 2025 season. Reports came out about friction between Reese and veterans on the roster, and the one that got the most attention involved Courtney Vandersloot, a respected veteran who Reese publicly questioned in a way that multiple outlets described as pointed and unnecessary. The environment around that team got bad enough that Reese picked up a suspension for conduct detrimental to the team, which is the league's formal way of saying someone's behavior crossed a line that couldn't be ignored anymore. When the trade finally went through, Sky players didn't exactly hold a tearful goodbye. The front office moved fast enough to hand Reese's number 5 jersey directly to incoming acquisition Rickea Jackson before anyone had time to think about it, and that's not how organizations treat a beloved teammate's number. That's how they close a chapter. They're relieved is over.
You know, the dynasty starts after you not with you. Chicago Sky to Angel Reese. Woo-wee! I told you that AR disease ran deep. Nobody wanted to play with that. That is wild.
What happened next in Chicago is the part that really tells the story. Before Reese left, the running narrative around the league was that Chicago wasn't a place free agents wanted to go, that something about the situation made it a difficult destination. Then she got traded and Skylar Diggins-Smith signed. Azura Stevens came aboard. Dejounte Carrington joined. Suddenly, Chicago became a team people were choosing on purpose. And the only thing that changed between nobody wants to play here and let's go to Chicago was Angel Reese's presence in that locker room. Compare that to Indiana, where Clark walked in during her first season, and the Fever went straight back to the playoffs. Boston and Mitchell both turned in career-level performances playing alongside her, and there are zero reports of suspensions, veterans getting publicly criticized, or any kind of locker room friction at all. The two situations aren't just different in results, they operated on completely different terms from the start.
Do you know who recognizes that Caitlin Clark is the face, the end-all, be-all for this league? All of these television networks. You know why? All 44 of Caitlin Clark's games will be on national television this season. All 44, not 40, not 41, not 40, all 44 will be on national TV because the GOAT is the face. She's not a needle mover, she is the needle.
Networks and sponsors don't just buy a player's highlight reel when they're deciding where to put their money. They buy the full story around that player, and a story that includes a conduct suspension, teammates who stayed silent when things got bad, and back-to-back lottery seasons doesn't belong anywhere near a national ad campaign. Chicago figured that out. Atlanta is about to find out firsthand. The Atlanta Dream held an introductory press conference to welcome Angel Reese to her new team. And look, these things are supposed to be fun. New chapter, fresh start, everybody's smiling for the cameras. What actually happened was her new teammates lined up and took turns accidentally, or maybe not so accidentally, telling the entire league exactly how they feel about her.
Question actually for everyone but Angel. How would you guys no offense, how would you guys describe what it was like playing against her the last 2 years?
I mean, anytime Angel's been on the other side of the court, I think I've had about 30. Next.
Ryan Howard went first. Someone asked her about playing against Reese previously, and Howard's answer was pretty casual, like she was just stating something obvious. She said anytime Angel's been on the other side of the court, she thought she had 30 points. Just dropped it like that, no hesitation, no softening it. And the thing is, Howard wasn't bragging, she was just reporting. Reese's defensive reputation around the league isn't built on stopping people, and Howard basically confirmed that at a press conference designed to hype Reese up. Every coaching staff watching that clip just got a free scouting report. Put the ball handler Howard's guarding on Reese's side, let her go, and collect buckets. Then Naz Hillman stepped up to the microphone. Her contribution to the welcome party was calling Reese annoying as hell, and she said it in a way where you could technically read it as a compliment, like she meant Reese is pesky and hard to deal with.
Angel's annoying as hell.
But annoying as hell is also just what you say about someone who exhausts you, and the line between those two things is pretty thin when it comes out at a press conference in front of cameras. Alicia Gray took a slightly different angle. Gray said she loved playing against Chicago because she had her best games there. Gray's one of the better offensive players in this league, so when she says a specific team's defense brought out her best performances, she's not paying that defense a compliment. With Reese on the floor for Chicago those 2 seasons, Gray was apparently treating those matchups like a personal scoring clinic.
I text Angel, and I was like, I ain't gonna lie, last year, I love playing against Chicago because I had my best games.
So let's just put all 3 of those together for a second. Howard scored at will against Reese on defense, Gray went off every time she played Chicago, and Hillman called her annoying as hell. And all of this came out at a press conference specifically organized to build excitement around their new teammate. Either nobody in the Atlanta Dream organization does media prep, or these players weren't exactly straining to hide how they feel. And these aren't random people making offhand comments, right? These are women who watched Reese play for 2 years from the other side of the court and now have to share a locker room with her every single day. The vibe coming off that press conference wasn't exactly warm.
So the Atlanta Dream teammates basically said, we were able to do anything we wanted at absolute will. We became Jedis on the court against the Chicago Sky. We just thought about cooking their ass. Shit started roasting on the court. We started cooking ribs and chicken right there on the court.
Here's the irony that's pretty hard to miss. Reese spent 2 years in Chicago publicly criticizing veterans, generating friction, picking up a conduct suspension, and generally being the loudest person in the room. Now she's walked into Atlanta, and the veterans in that locker room opened the welcome press conference by telling the media she can't guard anyone and that she's exhausting to be around. The dynamic she created in Chicago has followed her, except now she's on the receiving end of it. The 28 nationally televised games and the 3,500-seat gym were already waiting for her in Atlanta. Turns out her new teammates had a few things waiting for her too. Every network that bid on WNBA rights in 2026 ran the same analysis, looked at the same rosters, the same venues, the same ratings history, and landed on the same answer. Caitlin Clark in Indiana get 44 games, and Angel Reese gets 28 in a gym that can't even fill the seats of a decent high school football stadium. Reese spent 2 years telling anyone with a microphone that she personally drove people to watch women's basketball. The 2026 broadcast schedule tested that claim with actual money on the line, and Atlanta finished 6th. Behind rookies, behind a Sparks team that hasn't won anything in years. The market doesn't care about self-promotion. It cares about who people actually turn on the TV to watch, and that answer came back pretty clear. Let me know down in the comments below if you support Caitlin by commenting baby goat or Reese by commenting baby giraffe. Like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss out. Click the video on the screen, and we will see you in the next one.